Hello and welcome to the channel. Well, in this video I have tried a new technique, the use of a pre-chopper, and I am going to demonstrate in this video. This is a relatively soft nucleus, and as we all know that soft nucleuses are sometimes a challenge to tackle because it's very difficult to hold them and they don't break up easily. So the use of pre-chopper in these cases is a good idea. Whenever we are dealing with a soft nucleus, it's very important to have the rhexis right. In this case, the pupil is moderately dilated with some viscoelastic, about 6 millimeters. So I am fashioning the capsular rhexis just around the margin of the dilated pupil, and I am aiming to have a rhexis of about 5.5 millimeters, and I am using a micro rhexis in this case because using a cystitome was difficult, and now by this time the rhexis has been done. So we have got a decent size 5.5 millimeters capsular rhexis. So here I am making the main port 2.8 using a steel keratome. This would be a triplanar incision. Hydrodissection has been done, and I could see a very good fluid wave moving across. The nucleus is tapped and the mobility of the nucleus is confirmed. Here I am using a nucleus sustainer. It's a ball tip instrument. The rhexis margin, edge of the rhexis margin is confirmed by just lifting the iris. The sustainer is gradually slipped below the rhexis margin, and the pre-chopper is being used from the main port. Both the instruments are brought together from the equator, and it's a very soft nucleus, so sometimes even pre-chopper doesn't help to have a very smooth cut. Although I have got a decent cut, I am just rotating the nucleus and trying to pre-chop one heminuclei. I feel I have got some loose fragments. Now is the time to remove the sustainer. The chamber has become shallow, so here I am putting some viscoelastic to form the chamber and have some space. Using two Sinskey instruments, I am just confirming the separation of the nuclear fragments, and I could see that I have got around 2 fragments which are relatively separated. Still majority of the fragments are attached to each other. So I am now taking the phaco handpiece and making a trench in the center, and I am going to make a long thin trench, and I am going to just try divide the nucleus using a trench and divide technique. After sufficient depth is reached, I am using 2 instruments and just trying to separate 2 heminuclei. Now is the time to do the chopping. The parameters have been changed, and I am trying to just hold one piece of the nuclear fragment which has been separated, but as the nucleus is very soft, it is very difficult to hold it. So now here I have changed the parameters. I have reduced the phaco power to the minimum which my machine is offering, that is 10, and now I am trying to hold it because when I am using high power, the nucleus is just crumbling in front of it. So The vacuum being used here is around 250 and the phaco power is very less, about 10, and I'm trying to hold the nucleus and I could get the hold of one piece. Using the other instrument, the sustainer, I am trying to feed that small piece into the phaco handpiece, and here I have removed one small nuclear fragment which was separated probably during pre-chopping. The nucleus is rotated, the other heminuclei is held using phaco power and vacuum. Here again I am using very low phaco power, that is about 25, considering the density of the nucleus. The vacuum being used is 250. Slowly the nuclear fragments are emulsified into the phaco handpiece. The pupil size is also small, so I feel I am doing the emulsification at a very relatively anterior plane. Now one heminuclei is left and I feel it is time to put in some viscoelastic just to protect the corneal endothelium. So I am going to come out and replenish the viscoelastic. That's it. Now I have taken a small blunt Sinski and the last bit of nuclear fragments are being emulsified now with very less phaco power, 25, and vacuum 250. These nuclear pieces are emulsified over the level of the iris. Because many a times I have seen if in these moderately dilated pupils, if I do things at the level of the iris, the fluid just goes below the iris and causes ballooning of the iris. Sometimes we have an intraoperative floppy iris. So last bit of fragments are being removed over the surface of the iris, and now we have taken care of all the nuclear fragments. Now is the time to remove the cortical matter, and been removed using a coaxial IA handpiece. Vacuum being used is about 350. Bottle height is around 100, and gradually all the cortical matter is cleaned up. The bag is clean now. After filling the bag with viscoelastic, a single piece monofocal foldable hydrophobic spheric lens is being implanted into the eye. One haptic goes in the capsular bag, the other one is also dialed into the capsular bag. But as soon as after dialing the other haptic, I feel that the lens is not very well centered and it's moving towards the left side. So with the Y hook I am just checking whether the haptics are in the bag or not, and the lens is towards the left side as can be seen. So one haptic, it was found that one haptic was in the sulcus and the other was in the capsular bag. So I have planned to dial the haptic which is in the sulcus into the capsular bag, and as soon as the haptic goes in the bag, we will see that the lens centers on itself. Just in a moment, this haptic goes into the capsular bag and now the lens is well centered. So one can always have an idea if the lens is slightly decentered. It might be because one haptic is in the sulcus and other is in the bag, and many a times when we have not so good pupillary dilatation as in this case, which is about 3.5 to 4 millimeters. So we should always check whether the haptics are in the capsular bag or not. So that's the case has been done, and the wounds are hydrated. And I hope this video was helpful, and do like and subscribe my channel. Thank you so much.